you see him? Nobody asked him to sit there. Nobody told him to stay. He just knew. The way certain children know things before anyone teaches them, before anyone explains the weight of a room, or the silence that comes after a door closes on the wrong side of the camp. He was 9 years old, and he already understood that his mother needed someone to stay. So he stayed. That boy, sitting outside his mother's tent in the dark, his name was Reuben. And what you are looking at right now is the first crown he ever wore. Nobody saw it. Nobody named it. Nobody told him, well done. But it was real, and it cost him something, and shaped everything that came after. Last time we stood at the pit, we watched a man staring into an emptiness he could not fix, and we asked, how did it come to this? We started at the beginning, the house, the brothers, the fire that burned when Jacob was not watching, but we did not go far enough back. There is a wound in Reuben's story that started before the brothers' fire, before the coat, before Joseph was even born. It started the day a woman named Rachel arrived, and the household Reuben had grown up inside, quietly became a different place. Jacob had not planned to love Rachel the way he did. Nobody plans that kind of love. It arrives before you can prepare for it, before you can distribute it fairly or think about who else is in the room when it lands. He saw her at a well, and that was it. Years of labor, years of waiting, years of doing whatever it cost to make her his. 14 years he paid for her. 14. When a man pays that price for something, it does not arrive quietly. It arrives with everything he has ever wanted written all over his face, and Leah saw it. Leah, who had been Jacob's wife first, who had given him sons, who had built a life beside this man with the particular grace of a woman who knows she is loved less and has decided to be faithful anyway. She saw the way Jacob looked at Rachel, and she understood in a single moment what that look meant for the rest of her life. She did not collapse. She did not make a scene. She straightened her back and kept going. That is the thing about Leah that most people miss entirely. She was not a victim. She was a woman of extraordinary quiet strength, living inside an extraordinarily painful situation with more dignity than the situation deserved. But dignity does not mean the pain is not there. It just means you have decided what to do with it. Reuben was a young boy when Rachel arrived, old enough to notice things, young enough not to have the words for what he was noticing. He watched his father, watched the way Jacob moved differently when Rachel was nearby, the way his voice changed, the way his eyes found her across the camp before they found anyone else. He watched his mother, watched the way Leah adjusted, quietly, consistently, the way she made space for something she had not been consulted about and could not change. And he watched the distance between them, the particular geography of a household where two people share a life, but not a heart. Nobody sat Reuben down and explained any of this. Nobody needed to. He was the eldest. The eldest always learns to read the room first. And what he read in that room, every morning, every evening, every meal, every fire, was that love in this family had a direction, and the direction was not toward his mother. Here is what that does to a boy. It does not make him hate his father. Jacob loved Reuben, genuinely, really loved him. This is not a story about a cruel man. It makes him vigilant. It makes him the kind of child who sits outside his mother's tent at night without being asked, who notices when she has been quiet too long, who brings her mandrakes from the field, not because someone told him flowers matter, but because he understood without anyone teaching him that his mother needed to be seen. He was filling a gap his father didn't know he was leaving, and he was just 9 years old. There is a small moment in the book of Genesis that most people read straight past. Reuben finds mandrakes growing in the field, brings them to his mother. One sentence. Most readers do not stop there, but I need you to stop there. Picture it. A young boy, out working in the fields, probably with older servants, doing the kind of labor that wealthy patriarch sons did from an early age, finds these flowers, and instead of keeping them, or trading them, or doing nothing with them at all, he carries them home to his mother. That is not a small thing. That is a boy who has been paying attention, who noticed that his mother's face does not light up the way it should, who cannot fix the large thing, cannot rearrange his father's heart, cannot make the household different from what it is, but can do this small thing, can bring her something, can say without words, I see you, I am here, you are not invisible to me. Leah looked at those flowers, and whatever she felt in that moment, she looked at her firstborn son and loved him with the kind of love that costs something to carry, the kind that says, you are more than I deserved in this house. Reuben didn't know that. He just put the flowers down and went back to work. That was who he was. Do the thing. Ask for nothing. Keep moving. The pattern was already forming. As the years went on and Jacob's household grew larger and more complicated, Reuben took on more. Not because anyone assigned it, because he could see what needed doing and nobody else was doing it.
When the younger brothers fought, Jacob was often somewhere else. Reuben stepped in. When decisions needed to be made about the grazing rotation, about which fields to move to, about the small daily governance of a large working household, Jacob was distracted. Reuben stepped in. When Leah needed something, Jacob was not there. Reuben stepped in. He became very good at stepping in, at reading what a situation needed and providing it, at being present in every room where his father was absent. And here is the thing about that kind of invisible labor. It builds something real in a person. Real competence, real awareness, real strength. Reuben was genuinely capable, genuinely present, genuinely the kind of man a household could lean on. But it also builds something else, something quieter and more dangerous, an expectation. Not an arrogant one, not a demanding one, just the quiet internal arithmetic of a person who has been giving consistently and begins, without realizing it, to wonder when the giving will be acknowledged, when his father will turn toward him the way he turned toward Rachel, when someone will sit outside his tent in the dark and stay just because he needed them to. Jacob never turned that way, not the way Reuben needed, and Reuben never said so because that was not who he was. He was the son who stayed, the one who held things together, the one you called when something needed doing. You did not ask him what he needed, you assumed he was fine. Does that sound familiar? The person in your family who everyone leans on, who nobody thinks to check on because they always seem to be managing. That was Reuben. That has always been someone. Maybe it has always been you.
By the time Reuben became a man, he had built a version of himself that was useful to everyone around him, capable, steady, present, and quietly, desperately, hungry for something he did not know how to name. Not just acknowledgement, something deeper than that. He wanted to matter to his father the way Joseph mattered, not because of what he did, simply because of who he was. He never got that. Jacob loved him, but Jacob's love had never learned to be still long enough to see Reuben fully. It was always moving, always angled toward Rachel, toward Joseph, toward the part of his heart that had been captured years ago at a well and had never come back. This is not a story about a bad father. Jacob was not a bad father. He was a man who loved deeply in one direction and did not understand what that cost the people standing slightly outside that direction. The tragedy is ordinary, the kind that happens in real houses, in real families, without anyone meaning to cause it. But ordinary tragedies still leave marks, and Reuben carried every one of them, in the way he stepped up when he should have rested, in the way he gave when he should have asked, in the way he stayed when what he actually needed was for someone else to stay for him. So, that is the wound. Not dramatic, not sudden, just steady, the slow accumulation of a boy who learned to love people well in a house that did not always love him back the same way, who filled every gap his father left and received the assumption that he always would, who brought flowers to a woman who deserved more than flowers and never once asked for flowers himself. Here is what I want you to carry from this episode. The people who hold things together are not holding things together because they do not need anything. They're holding things together because someone has to, and they decided a long time ago that it would be them. Check on that person in your life. The one who is always fine, the one who always steps in, the one sitting outside someone else's tent in the dark because they understood that somebody needed to stay. They need someone to stay for them, too. Next time, we come to the moment that changes everything for Reuben. Not the pit, something earlier,
a decision made in a dark moment that his father heard about, said nothing, and remembered until his deathbed. Crowns in the Dust, the Reuben series, Episode 3, coming next.